Imagine someone who, even in the face of death threats, chose to stand firm in the place where God had placed her. Sounds crazy, doesn't it? In a world where most seek security at any cost, the story of Blessed Lindalva is a powerful provocation. She chose risk in the name of a greater love. This decision, which to human eyes might seem reckless, reveals a courage few dared possess. Prepare yourself, because knowing this woman's life is like opening a door to a reality where faith becomes stronger than fear, and where the simplicity of service transforms into unshakable strength. Born in a humble home in Rio Grande do Norte, Lindalva grew up surrounded by simple games and a faith that shaped every step of her journey. Who could have imagined that this little girl with clay dolls would become a symbol of resilience and holiness? Her story makes us question how often we put aside our own dreams for fear of criticism, or how many times we give up on a mission just to avoid conflict. Lindalva, on the contrary, teaches us that true victory is not avoiding suffering, but remaining faithful to the purpose that burns in your heart, even when everything seems to conspire against it. This video is more than a historical account. It is an invitation for you to reflect on your own life. How far would you go to protect what you believe in? What risks would you be willing to take to remain faithful to your calling? As you delve into Blessed Lindalva's journey of courage, love, and martyrdom, you will realize that holiness is not made of distant miracles, but of daily, simple, and often painful choices. Stay with me, because what you discover here may change the way you see your own mission and the meaning of the word courage. Imagine a child running barefoot through the backyards of Asu, Rio Grande do Norte, smelling the wet earth after the rain, and picking fruit straight from the tree. This was Lindalva, who grew up in a simple home filled with love and discipline, where every detail seemed to teach her something about life. She didn't have expensive toys, but she transformed clay dolls into princesses, proving that true wealth lies in creativity and affection. Have you ever noticed how the simplest things are the ones that leave the greatest mark on memories? It's in this kind of environment that the courage to face any challenge is instilled. In her daily life, Lindalva learned that faith isn't just a pretty word, but a sustaining force. Her father took her to Holy Mass, while her mother taught her to care for others, making solidarity a routine. This balance between spirituality and practical action is a powerful example for anyone seeking purpose. Want an exercise? Try setting aside time each week to visit an elderly neighbor or help a charity. It's not about money, it's about presence. Even as a young girl, Lindalva absorbed values that would prepare her for important decisions in the future. She understood, even without knowing it, that the joy of service is born in the heart of those who learn to be grateful for the little things. This kind of education, made of silent examples and everyday gestures, laid the foundation for a life of courage and love. And it was precisely this foundation that guided her when her calling began to whisper in her soul, announcing that something much greater awaited her just ahead. As Lindalva grew older, that little girl who played with clay dolls began to transform her sensitivity into concrete action. In Natal, while working to help her family, she set aside time to visit the elderly and the sick, bringing not only medicine or food, but something even more precious, genuine attention. Have you ever noticed how a simple conversation can change the day of someone who feels forgotten? It's incredible how such a simple gesture, like holding a hand or listening to a story repeated over and over again, can rekindle hope in a weary heart. This routine of visits wasn't just charity. It was a true practice of love. Every smile Lindalva elicited, every look of gratitude she received, strengthened her conviction that her path was linked to caring for the most vulnerable. Anyone who has volunteered knows that it's impossible to leave feeling the same after an encounter like this. If you've never tried it, how about finding a nursing home or hospital in your city and donating a few hours of your day? The reward is silent, but it transforms from within. With each step taken, Lindalva realized that her heart burned for something greater, a mission that went beyond the simple act of helping. It was as if each visit were a discreet call, an invitation to delve even deeper into loving one's neighbor. This inner flame began to illuminate a path that would soon lead her to a definitive choice, where service would cease to be just a practice and become the essence of her life. When her vocation was already burning brightly within Lindalva's heart, destiny presented her with a path that seemed tailor-made: the Congregation of the Daughters of Charity. She learned the story of St. Vincent Delaware Paul and St. Louise de Marillac, who dedicated their lives to serving the poor, and was immediately captivated by the sisters' simple joy. It wasn't just about living in a convent, but about being among the people, caring for society forgotten. It's curious how sometimes the answer we seek arrives in an unpretentious conversation or an unexpected invitation, just as it happened to her. Lindalva's heart leaped as she realized that this mission combined prayer and action, spirituality and practical service. The sisters took vows not only of poverty, obedience, and chastity, but also of serving the poor, which made their dedication even more radical and beautiful. Imagine living every day putting the needs of others above your own, expecting nothing in return. Does it seem impossible? Because it is precisely in this total surrender that the soul finds a freedom the world cannot offer. At 33, Lindalva wrote her acceptance letter and decided to take a leap of faith, leaving behind her ordinary life to embrace a lifelong commitment. This decision, which to many would seem crazy, was for her a natural response to the calling that already echoed within her. It's like when you feel you found your place in the world, that space where everything makes sense and your heart finally finds rest. But this choice wasn't the end of the journey, but rather the beginning of a mission that would soon take her to a place where her love would be tested in unimaginable ways. When Lindalva arrived at Abrigo Dom Pedro II in Salvador, it seemed like every corner of that old mansion was waiting for her. The place, full of stories and memories, sheltered elderly people who carried decades of joy and pain, and she entered like a ray of light. It didn't take long for her to win everyone's trust with her cheerful demeanor, always smiling and singing while serving coffee or helping with the simplest tasks. Have you ever noticed how a simple smile can change the energy of an entire room? That's exactly what she did, transforming everyday life into a true encounter with grace. Her work wasn't limited to distributing food or medicine. She offered something many of those elderly people hadn't received in years: presence. Lindalva listened to repeated stories without impatience, prayed a rosary with those who wanted it, and even created small activities to make everyone feel useful. Want a practical example? Think about how you can do the same in your family, dedicating a day to listening to your grandparents or parents without rushing, without using your cell phone, just being their body and soul. These moments are seeds that create lasting memories. The shelter became more than a workplace. It became a silent school where Lindalva learned each day that the greatness of life lies in serving with humility. Each elderly person served, each tear wiped away, was a step that brought her closer to her ideal of holiness. This phase seemed like a dream come true, but at the same time, it was preparation for something even more intense, a challenge that would put their courage and faith to the test that few would dare to face. It was in the heart of this loving service that an unexpected shadow appeared. Among the elderly and visitors to the shelter, a man began to show a strange attention toward Lindalva, revealing an interest that went beyond simple respect. At first, she reacted with the same politeness she offered everyone, but soon realized something was not right. It's curious how life, even when we're on the path to peace, can present us with challenges that seem to test every fiber of our courage. This unsettling presence was a harbinger that his faith would be painfully tested. The man's attitudes became increasingly insistent, and even in the face of Lindalva's refusals, he did not give up. She, firm in her vows and in her love for God, made it clear that her heart already had a single purpose: to serve. Imagine the strength it takes to maintain serenity when someone tries to break the barrier of your most sacred decision. How many times in life are we also called to protect what is most valuable to us, even when it means facing risks or misunderstandings? This is a powerful reflection her story evokes. The shelter's managers tried to intervene, but the man's obsession seemed to grow with each passing day. Lindalva, however, did not allow fear to dictate her actions. She continued serving with joy, praying and caring for the elderly as if nothing could shake her mission. It is impressive to think that, even feeling the threat approaching, she chose to remain faithful, as one who understands that life gains meaning when lived with courage. But what she did not yet know is that this choice would lead her to a final act of love and sacrifice that would forever mark her life. On April 9th, 1993, the threat that haunted Lindalva finally revealed itself in its most cruel form. The man who had been stalking her entered the shelter, determined to end her life, carrying with him a knife that would become an instrument of violence and, paradoxically, of holiness. During the early morning hours, while she was serving breakfast to the elderly, he attacked her furiously. Amidst the chaos, Lindalva did not cry out for revenge, simply maintaining the serenity of someone who had already given her life to a greater love. It is almost impossible to imagine such courage, but her attitude shows that true strength lies not in reacting with hatred, but in remaining faithful to the end. Her martyrdom shocked the community, spreading sadness but also profound admiration. The young sister who served the poor had become a living example of total surrender, preferring death rather than breaking her vows to God. The news spread quickly, and people everywhere began to recount graces received through her intercession, as if the light she carried in life had become even more intense after death. This is the mystery of the saints. Even when the body is silenced, the message resonates more strongly. Today, the memory of Blessed Lindalva continues to inspire those who seek to live with purpose and courage. Beatified in 2007, she is remembered as a woman who did not surrender to fear, but embraced faith to the very end. His story invites us to reflect on what is truly worthwhile, fleeting comfort or fidelity to a calling that gives eternal meaning to existence. Thus, every act of love we repeat in our daily lives, no matter how small, becomes a way of keeping alive the legacy of someone who proved that service is the highest path to true freedom. Blessed Lindalva's journey is much more than a story of religious devotion. It is an invitation for each of us to reflect on the power of a firm decision, even in the face of the greatest adversity. From her humble childhood to her martyrdom at Abrigo Dom Pedro II, each step of her life reveals that greatness lies not in grandiose deeds in the eyes of the world, but in the constancy of those who love without expecting anything in return. When we look at her example, we are challenged to ask, what is the mission that God or life itself is placing in our hands? This question echoes like a silent call, capable of completely changing the course of our days. Lindalva teaches us that service is the highest form of freedom, because those who serve wholeheartedly free themselves from the selfishness that imprisons them. She did not back down in the face of persecution. She did not compromise her principles, nor did she allow fear to define her story. In times when so many live in search of comfort and security, her life is a powerful reminder that true security lies in remaining faithful to what truly matters. And if we look closely, we will realize that the opportunities to live this fidelity are also before us, in the small choices of everyday life. Today, the memory of Blessed Lindalva lives on, not only on altars, but in every person who chooses to love, forgive, and serve despite difficulties. Her beatification is a recognition of the Church, but her true legacy is the silent transformation she provokes in those who know her story. May you take away more than just information after finishing this video. The courage to embrace your own mission, the strength to be faithful to what you believe, and the certainty that when life is surrendered to love, not even death can extinguish the light of those who choose to serve.